Well, Sandy, thanks for coming for the interview today.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah. I know you just retired at the end of August of 2017. Tell me how the first few months were like for you.
Well, it was pretty busy because I was preparing to go to China. And so we had to get visas and passports. My passport had to be updated and a whole lot of unknowns, things that we needed to do within a certain time frame in order to be able to go on the trip. So that was really the focus for the first couple of months.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was, is traveling on your list now that you have more free time?
Well, I think that it is. I have to be honest and say I don't have a list. I feel kind of funny that way. I mean, I just don't have a real clear picture.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking about that last night, and I thought of Bertrand Russell's essay called In Praise of Idleness. And I haven't read it for a long time, but I think the essence of it is that idleness is not a bad thing. In fact, it's a good thing to let your mind just rest and think. So I've decided to take the high road there and say that's what I'm doing, rather than saying that I'm being lazy and not doing. I'm not doing the kinds of things that I thought that I would be doing.
What did you think you might be doing?
Well, I thought that I would be cooking some gourmet meals because I was into that just a few years ago. But I haven't really been that interested. And Jim's really been doing more cooking than me, which is kind of funny, a reverse. And then I also thought, well, I'll spend time in Tamasha's classroom because it's always good to have another adult around.
Mm-hmm.
And she's teaching in a hallway because they don't have enough classrooms. And so she's literally in the center of a pod. So making teaching a little more complicated than if you actually had doors and walls and so on. So I thought I'd be going out doing that. It's not what I've done.
What have you liked the absolute most since you've been retired?
Oh. Honestly, I think the thing I've liked the most is not having a schedule. You know, not having to get up at a certain time and not having to be any particular place at a certain time.
Do you foresee doing any paid work again during your retirement?
You know, I've thought about that. And right now it doesn't seem that appealing, but I would like to do something with the Myers-Briggs. The tool is interesting to people, and of course it is because it gives you feedback about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out to be very accurate feedback because the tool is well constructed. And I could do that in a group setting or I could do that individually. Yeah, so that's the idea that I have. It's some of the work that I did that was the most fun and most valuable. I think that people that I did the work with found it to be very valuable.
Mm-hmm.
So if I did, I think I'd like to do it around that. But not yet.
As a high school young woman, did you have any thoughts about what you might want to do when you got out of high school? What interested you?
You know, the only thing I could say to that is in high school I was dating this guy and he said, "Oh, you want to be a career girl." Yeah, I mean, it was back in the day. And I said, yeah. So I had this idea that I wanted to have a career
Mm-hmm.
as compared to a job. But nothing much more beyond that.
Generational family traits. Tell me some of the ones that you most admired.
Oh, well, generational, I mean, the person in my life that I most admired was my grandmother. She,
Maternal or paternal?
paternal.
Mm-hmm.
She was just a brave woman, and she she came to America. Well, she brought Laura to America. Laura was born in Finland, and she was too young to travel when her mother came back home, and so they needed someone to escort Laura. And originally it was supposed to be the oldest sister's task because it was such a cool thing to be able to go to America. But the oldest sister had a vision problem. And once you got to Ellis Island, if you weren't in perfect condition, you know, they would test for heart condition, whether you had a limp, vision, I assume hearing as well. And if you didn't pass all those tests, you didn't get off the island, they sent you right back home. Just was one very determined woman. You know.
So you come by it naturally.
That's exactly it. It's a characteristic I admire greatly, and I do come by it naturally.
Was humor important in your family when you were growing up?
I was just going to say, when you're asking about who were role models and for what, yes, humor was very important. My grandpa McDonald said, you can lose anything but your sense of humor. You know, you can lose anything and survive, but don't lose your sense of humor. So.
Well, so we had coffee in November, I think it was, before you went to China, or maybe even a little before that.
Right.
And you were telling me that you had a relative who was killed in the 40s, was it? Because of union activity?
Right. It's been an ongoing investigation for Jim and me for over 5 years by now. It happens that the entire police file is in the Washington State Southwest Regional or Northwest Regional Library. So the point is, you can go to the library here in Olympia and start digging through the files and read everything that that still exists, that the police pulled together.
Do they have any DNA materials or anything like that still in?
Well, the thing that would be left would be Laura's dress, because she was not only bludgeoned, but she was stabbed in the chest, I think 7 times, 5 or 7 times. It was a horrific murder. My goal in all this was just to understand, how the hell could this happen? You know, who would do that? In regards to the case, we do want to write a book, so
Oh, okay.
that will be something to do.